The Smash series is in quite a crossroads right now in the sense that it's very uncertain what the direction the series could even go in at this point. I think it's borderline impossible to predict a roster for a game of this caliber, especially one that's probably not going to be releasing anytime soon. One possible direction would be having the following game be a direct sequel or remaster of Ultimate where it builds upon that roster, which would be a little bit disappointing, I'd say. Possibly the game could be a pure reboot, completely redoing everything from scratch, including reimagining a lot of the movesets and gameplay mechanics even, to where I wouldn't expect the roster to be that large at all. However, for this video and my roster, I'll be treating the following game as if it will be more of a traditional sequel, something along the likes of Melee, Brawl, and 4, that there could be an attempted balance of treatment between all, at least first-party franchises, hopefully getting a new character per each major franchise, although considering the size of these rosters that's not very likely. Looking at 4 for instance, which only introduced new characters for Mario, Pokemon, Fire Emblem, and Kid Icarus, which came off as a little bit unbalanced. This would be its own game made from scratch, so I wouldn't even expect there to be close to the 80 characters in Ultimate in this case. That said, a lot of the framework here could still be reused, so I wouldn't expect a small roster either. Something in between 4 and Ultimate sizes could be suitable. 4 had 51 and Ultimate had 74, although, I mean, that does count clones, and I won't be doing that for my video, so those numbers are a little inflated. I think at most 60 fighters would be realistic for a sequel of this sort. I mean, if anything, it may be a bit too high, but considering fan expectations, it's at least reasonable, and it is 20 less than Ultimate. For my roster, I'm going to go back to the superior older organization and have the characters all be grouped by series and not whatever borderline arbitrary numbering system they used. But before going through the franchises in order, the OG 12 characters will more than likely be included here. I know people are a little bit iffy on Jigglypuff's inclusion, but these 12 characters have been playable in every single Smash game, so I don't know why things would change here. For the Mario series, it is Nintendo's largest one, and it's definitely the most deserving to have the most characters, as it already does in Smash. I don't like the idea of cutting many of them though, but at the same time it will take up a considerable amount of the roster. Either way, as I said, I'm not counting Echoes or Clones as their own slots, so I'm not including Dr. Mario or Daisy. I mean, really they would be fine as alternate skins for Mario and Peach anyway. I'm also going to cut Piranha Plant because he's the worst Smash character, and there are about a billion different Mario characters that would be a better choice. Unlike the actual Smash rosters, my one does have limited slots, and I don't think it needs to be wasted on this one. With that said and done, Peach and Bowser are no-brainers, Yoshi and Wario as well, I'm counting them as Mario characters. This leaves Bowser Jr. and Rosalina and Luma as the final 2 Mario veterans. I feel like Bowser Jr. in recent times have been pretty relevant to the Mario series, things like marketing for Nintendo, inclusions in most of the spin-off games, Bowser's Fury, and not to mention the Koopalings too. With Rosalina, ignoring the clones and Piranha Plant, I'd say she's the most likely to be cut. She did seem at her prime to be a significant Mario character back during the Galaxy games, the spin-off games at the time, 3D World of which came out pretty close to Smash 4, but the thing is, 3D World was her last appearance in a mainline Mario game, and that was over a decade ago now, which is crazy. That said, I still really doubt that they would cut her simply because she's a somewhat popular character and for female representation. For newcomers, I think 2 are justified. Pretty much every previous Smash game has introduced 2 or more Mario characters in some form or another, the exception being Brawl, but that's where I put the emphasis on other, because Wario and Diddy Kong are pretty much Mario characters anyway. In terms of the Wario and Yoshi series, which are just Mario series, don't argue with me, I just wouldn't expect any new characters. As cool as Ashley would be, her inclusion just seems too unlikely considering the relatively small series she's from. For Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong and King K. Rool have to return. Dixie Kong is a heavy honourable mention, but ultimately I find her inclusion a little unlikely. I don't think she has either the popularity or demand to be included, nor do I think she could bring much to the table. I do think she's one of the more deserving first-party characters to be included in the game, but I think the best position she's getting in this roster at least is an Echo or clone of Diddy Kong. Zelda and Ganondorf are yet again no-brainers, they have to be included. In my previous video I said this, but I have to just say that Sheik is probably the most absurd character to represent the Zelda series. She's one of the 3 non-clone Zelda fighters, and she is barely prominent to the Zelda franchise at all. She doesn't have to be cut completely, maybe put her back into Zelda's moveset or have another character take over her moveset, but even then her moveset has nothing to do with the Zelda series anyway. I find her character a little problematic because she is such an icon to the Smash series at this point, and I'd imagine her removal would cause some disgruntled fans, but whatever, this is my video. As much as the Zelda series deserves more characters, you know, because it's one of Nintendo's largest franchises and it's not like there's no one to choose from, I really wouldn't expect any, to be honest, just because. That said, there's two things I'd change for the series. One, have Ganondorf's moveset completely updated from scratch, which would essentially become a new character anyway. And two, replace Sheik with Impa, either giving Impa a completely new moveset, or possibly just include both of them and just have Impa as an Echo. Next is Metroid. Zero Suit Samus is just a ridiculous character, so I do want to cut her. However, I also doubt that Metroid would even get a new character, to be honest, unless it's some major character from Metroid Prime 4 or something that could be included. So for me, I'm going to leave Metroid as 3 fighters, Samus and Ridley of course, and for the third one it will be either Zero Suit, preferably not, a decloned Dark Samus, or a new Metroid character in general like Psylocke. For the Kirby series, I think the main 4 Kirby characters should all be playable, the 4th one being Bandana Waddle Dee, of course, as a newcomer. For the Star Fox franchise, I think we need to cut a character. 3 very similar fighters in an already cramped room for a roster is pushing it. Falco is a mainstay, so he should stay, even if I do prefer Wolf. And in general, I really wouldn't expect a newcomer unless the Star Fox franchise is revived. For Pokemon, we definitely need to keep Charizard in the form of Pokemon Trainer at least, Lucario and Greninja solely out of popularity, and I guess Mewtwo as well. That's already 6 Pokemon. 6 or 7 would be reasonable in general, and we'd definitely be getting a new Pokemon anyway, so I'll just leave another slot open as a potential starter, probably a Grass type. I'm going to gloss over the next 4 series, being Earthbound, F-Zero, Ice Climber, and Game & Watch, and I'll just say that all previous characters should return, but no new ones should be included. The only one I'm on the fence is Lucas, because of obvious reasons, the Mother series being beyond dead at this point, but I'll keep him in anyway. Now for Fire Emblem, I think we should probably cut it back a little from Ultimate. Martha's obvious, and I'd also imagine getting a new character, probably the protagonist of whatever the latest Fire Emblem game is. But beyond that, it's hard to cut it down, other than just removing every clone. I think that makes it pretty simple. The only one I'm a little on the fence with is Chrom due to his popularity, but whatever. That leaves us with Ike, Robin, Corrin, and Byleth. And I think with those 4 we should cut 2 of them, leaving us with 4 total characters, which I think is more than fair for this series, and that's also not including clones anyway, which could pad it out possibly. I think Robin should be kept in solely because he is a different character or fighter archetype, being a mage. Of the 3 remaining choices, I find the choice pretty simple. Ike at this point is a bit of a mainstay to the series and does have a completely unique moveset. I might be speaking out of my arse, but I feel like the original 2 3D Fire Emblem games have a bit more prominence than, say, the GBA games or whatever, so that would justify his inclusion. Additionally, he's just a way more interesting character than both Corrin and Byleth. Not in terms of moveset, but just the character itself. Fates isn't popular, nor is it well received, and while people like Three Houses, Byleth is just a boring silent protagonist character with a boring moveset that should have never been included in Smash in the first place. An easy cut for me. For Kid Icarus, I'm gonna cut it back to just Pit and Palutena. Unless a new Kid Icarus game comes out, I don't think it really needs another character. And even then, Palutena is kinda pushing it, but whatever. For Pikmin and Rob, Olimar and Rob should return. I'm not going to go with a new Animal Crossing character. I think 2 is already pushing it, though the series is pretty popular, so maybe it's deserved. I don't really know what a third fighter could really bring to the table that Villager and Isabelle hasn't already done, or at least a new fighter that wouldn't feel extremely contrived. It's not an action series or anything, and the 2 already existing fighters are already so similar to one another anyway. Little Mac, of course, needs to stay. For the Mii fighters, however, I'm very uncertain. I was going to not include them because, I mean, they're Miis, but unless the next console isn't backwards compatible, it is still gonna have Mii compatibility. And the Mii costumes themselves are very lucrative, so I guess I'll keep them. Considering the current popularity of the Xenoblade franchise, I think it's fair to give it a 3rd rep, which I've just given it as the protagonist of the 3rd game. Of course, Shulk should return and Pyra should as well. And finally, I'll include Duck Hunt Duo, Inkling, and Min Min. I don't think any of those 3 series needed a new character, though. In terms of third-party characters, I think it's more than fair to expect Sonic, Mega Man, Pac-Man, Ryu, Bayonetta, Simon, and Kazuya. Snake is also a possibility, but he wasn't included in Smash 4. Whatever, I'll include him anyway. I am going to cut the rest, however. In terms of new third-party fighters, both Brawl and 4 introduced 2 in the base game, so I guess I'll just include 2 here as well. And finally, in terms of new first-party properties, I'm going to go with a comfortable 2. Melee only introduced 1 major franchise, Brawl introduced 2, 4 introduced 5, and Ultimate introduced 1, 2 including DLC. So I think 2 is fair considering the beast of this roster size, and that it's totally still below 60 characters. Those 2 characters, I'll just go with Akira Howard and Ring Fit Trainee as a replacement for Wii Fit Trainer. So that's a total of 11 or 12 newcomers, which is pretty fair compared to the rest of the series, and that's only including non-clone characters, which could pad out that number a little more. Now I think a big problem with my list is that I lied to you. This is actually 68 characters, which in and of itself is fair-ish, is what I would have said if I included clones, which I'm not. So realistically, I would imagine a good number of these fighters being cut. If we're going to hit that perfect 60 number, I'm going to take these off. Paper Mario, a new Metroid character, Greninja, Ike, Palutena, Paramithra, Kazuya, and Snake. And those 8 characters can always come back as DLC later down the line, so all's fair that ends well. That DLC would consist of 2 newcomers and 6 veterans, so possibly we could have a total of 12 DLC characters, 6 old and 6 new. The other 4 newcomers could be like Rhythm Heaven, Isaac, and 2 third parties or something. Anyway, this list was a bit harder to make than I expected, and having to keep Jigglypuff over half of the cut characters is a bit annoying. This whole topic is kinda revelatory for me. It's not like the Smash team can just materialize 80 characters out of their arse for the next game, unless it is a port or something of Ultimate. And while there definitely are some fighters that would be easy to cut because they're garbage like Piranha Plant, there's a lot of great characters in here that made me cringe to my core when I chose not to include them. Especially limiting the roster down to say 50, it's sad to see so many losses, and this is what the next Smash team is going to have to go through when they have to balance out the choices. I don't think it'd be very easy to please everyone like this without at least keeping an astronomically large roster size, which in and of itself isn't really that sustainable. Either way, I'm prepared to get flamed in the comments for my choices, so yeah, flame me in the comments if you want. Let me know if there's any glaring character choices that I'm forgetting about, or if Piranha Plant should actually stay in Smash, which you're wrong about. Either way, thanks for watching this. I'd love to say I'm done with the fighters, but realistically I still haven't discussed third-party properties or even echoes yet, so I'll possibly get around to talking about those as well. But yeah, anyway, see you whenever.